12 True Girlfriend Horror Tales, She Claimed Love. Until I uncovered the dark secret. The night was thick with whispers, the kind that send chills down your spine. In a quiet town, where shadows danced like specters and secrets bloomed like nightshade, Mark had fallen for what he thought was a dream. But soon, that dream twisted into a nightmare, each moment more surreal than the last. The ink-black sky above felt alive, as if the universe held its breath, waiting for the truth to unravel. A buried letter at the bottom of a dusty box in his girlfriend's attic promised to change everything. It all began on a rainy evening, the kind where puddles turned into mirrors reflecting dark clouds. Mark was alone in his apartment, scrolling through photos of Jessica, his girlfriend. She smiled wide, her eyes sparkling like the stars in a rare clear sky. But there was something strange about a few of those pictures. The background shifted from cozy cafes to eerie landscapes that made him feel small and vulnerable. Had he really noticed the faint red glow of a forgotten barn in the back? The implications were unsettling. Days passed, and unease settled in Mark's chest like an unwelcome guest. Something was hidden behind those sweet smiles and soft laughter. He ventured into the attic, dust motes swirling in the dying light, suddenly aware of how silent the world had become. The moment he unearthed that box, anticipation crackled in the air. The letter slipped through his fingers like a secret, its yellowing edges ominously beckoning him closer. As he read the first line, his heart raced. If you're reading this, it means someone has taken my place. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Mark's pulse drummed in his ears as the words sank in. Doubts clawed at him, each one sharper than the last. He felt a lump in his throat, a creeping dread washing over him. Who had written this? Why did the air feel charged with hidden intentions? He glanced around, half expecting Jessica to appear, her familiar warmth overshadowed by an uneasy tension that smothered the room. This letter was a door opened, pointing toward a truth he wasn't ready to face. He traced the curled edges with trembling fingers, unsure if it would speak of love or horror. The attic creaked, and Mark shivered, a chill creeping down his spine. Could Jessica have been lying all along? Could love disguise something so dark? With every question, the weight of the moment bore down on him, turning innocent curiosity into a frenzied need to uncover the truth. But did he really want to know what lay ahead? The echoes of the night outside grew louder, the wind howling like a restless spirit. Mark stood at a crossroads, step into the light of discovery or retreat into blissful ignorance. As he took a deep breath, determination surged in his chest. He had to find out, but was he prepared for what he might uncover? The weight of the moment pressed down on him, thickening the air around Mark as he stood there, letter in hand. The shadows in the attic flickered, stretching and twisting against the peeling walls. Was it his imagination, or did they seem to reach out for him? He could almost hear them whispering, murmuring secrets he was desperate to uncover. With a surge of resolve, he clutched the letter tighter and scanned its remaining lines. I was never meant to leave. The love we shared was a facade, a carefully constructed illusion. But now, someone else wears my face. Mark's heart raced, pounding against his ribcage like a trapped animal. A rush of adrenaline coursed through him, igniting his senses that he ripped his gaze from the letter to the attic door, the stillness beyond it haunting him. He thought of Jessica, her laughter echoing in his mind, a sound now tainted by doubt. Could the girl he adored really be hiding a sinister truth? Mark's feet propelled him down the creaky stairs, the darkness followed him like a shadow. He rushed to his phone, frantic fingers dialing Jessica's number. It rang and rang until finally, her familiar voice answered. Hey, babe. All set for tonight? The warmth in her tone felt like a knife, cutting deeper with each word. Jessica. I found something, he breathed, his voice shaky. A pause hung in the air, stretching their connection taut. In the attic, a letter. What? Mark, what are you talking about? Her voice dropped an octave, laced with something he couldn't identify. That letter. It says someone took your place. What does that even mean? Each word felt more dangerous than the last, hanging between them like a loaded gun. There was silence, a thick, suffocating silence that felt like an eternity. Mark, her voice trembled. You need to stay away from the attic. Why? What do you mean? Panic surged as dread gripped his mind. What is going on, Jess? Just trust me, she pleaded, but it was too late. His conviction surged stronger than her sweet voice, rising above the shaky tone that hinted at secrets buried deep. I can't. Not anymore. He shouted before ending the call. Determination blazed within him as he raced toward the attic once more, heart pounding like a war drum. He flung open the attic door, a vast expanse of dust-laden boxes stretched before him. The air felt thick with anticipation, as if the very shadows were watching his every move. The letter pulsed in his mind, it begged for answers. Mark tortured himself over every box, ripping through them like a man possessed. Old clothes, forgotten toys, useless trinkets found their way to the ground, but deep in his gut, he knew he was looking for something specific, something that would reveal Jessica's lies. Then he stumbled upon another box, smaller and locked tight. Wood-aged and warped, it felt almost cursed against his fingertips. He fought against the splintered edges, wrestling until he heard a satisfying crack, the latch giving way. As he opened the lid, a rush of cold air brushed against his skin, and the contents inside made him stagger back. Photos, dozens of them, scattered haphazardly. But these weren't just any photos. They showed Jessica in various stages, each image portraying familiar smiles, except, something was off. As he leaned closer, his breath caught in his throat. There she was with another man. Their faces appeared too similar, a heart-stopping resemblance that sent ice shooting through his veins. What he thought was laughter was a sinister smirk shared among the trio, and he noted the blurry figures in the background, always watching. Mark recoiled as icy realization swept over him. Each captured moment spiraled the truth deeper, twisting his perception of reality like a malleable nightmare. With trembling resolve, he grabbed his phone again, ready to confront Jessica. But just as he clicked her number, the door creaked open. Mark? Jessica's voice was honeyed, sweetly deceptive as her figure emerged from the darkness. I think we need to talk. His heart raced as he glanced at the box behind him, fear and confusion swirling in his chest. What had he stumbled into? The very essence of his world hung by a thread, and as her eyes darkened, realization dawned upon him. This talk might be about survival, not love. Wait, he managed to stammer, but it was too late. The shadows wrapped around them as she stepped closer, and in that moment, Mark understood that everything he feared was just the beginning. What remained in the darkness, however, was yet to be revealed. Mark's mind raced in a whirlwind of chaos, the words from the letter echoing like thunder in the storm of his thoughts. Jessica's voice, once comforting, turned foreign and untrustworthy. He took a step back, nearly tripping over the scattered boxes around him as Jessica advanced. Mark, please, you don't understand. Her voice was a desperate whisper, a melodic plea that felt more like a lash. But he could see it in her eyes. The way they sparkled with tension, a mixture of fear and a hint of something chillier. He sensed the shifting atmosphere, a thick blanket of lies woven tightly around them. Understand what, Jessica? That you lied to me? That someone else in this world might be pretending to be you? The accusation slipped like poison from his lips. No, you don't get it. She said, her tone rising. I've protected you. You're not safe. What do you mean? Protected me from what? His anger ignited further, fueled by betrayal and confusion. With a sharp intake of breath, Jessica glanced at the box behind him, her face twisting into a mixture of dread and resolve. "You shouldn't have opened that," she breathed, her voice trembling. "You have to listen to me." Mark's heart hammered against his chest, a frantic war drum urging him to run or fight. Yet, he stood frozen, overwhelmed by a cocktail of fear and adrenaline. "Why? Why would you keep something like this from me? We didn't have a choice," she shouted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I thought I could control it, but now it's too late." There she was, a woman broken and fierce, but the monstrous shadows behind her deepened, stretching and snarling. Each flicker of darkness felt charged with impending doom. Mark glanced at the box again, wishing he had never pried into secrets buried beneath dust and memories. "What are you talking about, Jessica? Who are you so afraid of?" His voice was barely above a whisper, questions swirling ominously in the dark. To understand that, she stepped closer, urgency taut in her posture. "You need to know my past, our past. It's more than just us. It's about everything." Mark's stomach sank. The nearer she drew, the more he felt a sickening chill that danced along his spine. "You mean there's more than just us?" She nodded slowly, the dread spilling over her face. "Mark, I know this will sound insane, but I'm not the only one. There's another Jessica out there. Maybe more." His world jolted beneath him like a runaway train, creaking and crashing through his reality. "Another Jessica? What are you? Just listen. It's not just about us, it's about survival." Panic flooded her voice, twisting his insides. "There are forces at play, ones that won't let me go easily. You're in danger, we're both in danger." His pulse quickened as the fear mirrored her own. The room felt smaller, the shadows encroaching like predators stalking their prey. He struggled to comprehend what she said, his thoughts spiraling tighter. "And you didn't think I deserved to know?" A flash of sorrow crossed her face, quickly replaced by determination. "I didn't want you involved. I thought I could handle it myself." A heavy silence fell as they locked eyes, both caught in the gravitational pull of secrets that threatened to swallow them whole. "You lied to me!" Mark yelled, glaring at the box filled with photographs, a graveyard of memories with twisting truths. Jessica winced, clearly hurt but unyielding. "What's done is done, Mark. We need to figure this out together." Mark turned to the window, the dim light casting eerie shadows among the boxes, illuminating the growing tension. He felt the weight of both love and betrayal dragging him further into despair. "I don't know if I can trust you anymore. Just look in the box, Mark," she pleaded, reaching out as if to solidify their bond one last time. "You need to understand before it's too late." He glanced between her desperate face and the box of lies, torn between love and deception. Before he could decide, a low growl reverberated from the corridor outside, freezing the air between them. Jessica's eyes widened in terror, and she spun toward the door, the shadows flickering with an alarming hunger. "Quick! We have to hide. Now!" she screamed, grabbing his wrist and pulling him toward the back of the attic. As they dove behind a pile of old clothes and boxes, his mind raced. Who was really hiding in the dark? And what awaited them outside? Every instinct screamed at him that the real horrors had only just begun. The roar of the growl sent shivers down Mark's spine, a deep, guttural sound that clashed with the silence of the attic and vibrated through the wooden beams beneath them. Heart pounding, he crouched low, his breath shallow as he tried to swallow the rising tide of fear. Jessica's grip tightened around his wrist. "Stay quiet," she hissed, her eyes darting to the door, wide and frantic. The shadows breathed around them, thick and alive, as if they were collectively holding their breath, unwilling to disturb the horror poised just outside. Mark's chest felt tight. "What is that?" he whispered, barely able to form the words. It's them. "They're here," she replied, her voice barely a tremor against the shadowy chaos. "We have to wait for it to pass." Mark felt the pulse of the growl ripple through him, a sinister reminder of the danger lurking just an arm's length away. Instinct urged him to bolt, to escape this twisting nightmare, yet here he was, frozen in place, caught beneath layers of lies and looming threats. The air felt charged, frigid with uncertainty. He squinted at the door, straining to hear anything beyond the ominous growl. Silence fell again, thick and heavy. Then came a scrape, a relentless, clawing sound against the wooden floorboards. A chill raced through him as he imagined what might be on the other side. What had he gotten himself into? Dark secrets unfurled like shadows around him, thriving in the knowledge that truth was far more terrifying than any misconception he could conjure. He realized now that the box of photographs was merely the tip of the iceberg. Suddenly, another growl echoed, more menacing this time, slicing through the stillness and sending a tremor through his soles. Mark's stomach twisted. He had to know. Jessica, what are they? Are they human? The words trembled on his tongue, that a flicker of hurt crossed her face before panic gripped her deep. No. They're not. I can't explain right now. Just trust me. Trust? He scoffed quietly, but the bitter sting of betrayal burned. Do you even understand what you're asking? You've kept so much from me. Trust is all we have. She shot back, her eyes fierce but wet. We can't waste any more time. Before he could draw a breath to respond, a shadow darted past the door, flitting dangerously close, followed by a sound that made his skin crawl, a sharp inhale, like that of a predator tasting the air. Mark's heart dropped. Jessica, there, stay still. She hissed again, squeezing his wrist painfully tight. Desperate to break free of the suffocating atmosphere, he peered through a crack in the boxes. He had to see. But the glimpse was enough. A dark silhouette loomed just beyond the door, vaguely humanoid, but twisted, wrong. A chill crept in, crawling under his skin like 1,000 frozen fingers. The creature whispered through the wood, its voice a thin, slithering sound. Let me in. Jessica, terror clutched at Mark's throat, squeezing him as the weight of realization crashed around him. Who or what was that? It felt suffocating, as if he stumbled directly out of reality into a waking nightmare. Jessica. He murmured, voice shaky. You can't let it in. But she had already gone pale, backing tighter into the shadows, terror etched across her features. I can't. I'm sorry. Mark's heart raced wildly as the door splintered with a sickening crack, each sound a vicious reminder of the inevitable. The beast was determined. I'll find you, it hissed, its voice dripping with malice. With a burst of instinct, Jessica grabbed his arm one last time. We can't stay here. They scrambled to their feet, the attic's dusty floorboards creaking dangerously as they tried to avoid detection. Mark's mind whirled with questions, doubts multiplied, stinging with disbelief. Where do we go? He gasped, panic wrapping around him like a vice. The closet. She cried, her breath quick. It has a hidden exit, it's our only hope. Mark hesitated, just a moment, fighting the urge to balk at the unfamiliar, but there was no time. He had to trust her now, fractured heart and all. As they dashed to the closet, the door burst open with a shattering crash, splinters flying through the air, and a monstrous figure stepped over the threshold, eyes gleaming with a hunger that made Mark's blood run cold. Would they escape the impending doom? Or was the line between trust and betrayal about to sever completely? Mark's heart hammered in his chest as he and Jessica flung themselves toward the closet, a place he desperately hoped would not be their tomb. The splintered door hung on its hinges, and the creature lingered, silhouetted by the peeling attic light. The oppressive anticipation of death hung heavy in the air. Now! Jessica shouted, pulling him forward, her grip still unyielding despite the turmoil swirling around them. An immense shadow loomed in the doorway, taking form as the monstrous figure shifted, revealing a grotesque countenance, a twisted smile that sent waves of raw panic coursing through him. They dove into the cramped space of the closet, her body pressing against his, the scent of dust and old wood clashing violently with the palpable dread. Mark was painfully aware of every inch between them, confused feelings quickly warping into further anxiety. Fear gripped him tightly, entwined with thoughts of betrayal. Jessica shoved a small altar of boxes against the doors just as the beast let out a howl that rattled the very bones of the house. "You can't hide forever," it crooned, the voice both seductive and terrifying. Each syllable curled through the air like smoke, igniting the darkness surrounding them and blanketing them in horror. "What the hell is that thing?" Mark whispered, voice trembling, as if even speaking could summon the horror to them. "You said not human." Jessica's breath hitched, eyes darting upward, her fear a force that consumed her entirely. "It's not. They're monsters. They were once people, but they're gone now," she admitted, shame and terror melting together in her expression. "You don't understand. I was trying to protect you." "Protect me?" He scoffed, anger bubbling in the back of his throat. "By hiding the truth? By putting me in this nightmare?" The thing outside grew restless, its claws scraping at the floorboards beneath them, a primal threat echoing in the cramped space. "Jessica! Let me in!" It wheedled, a chilling mockery of human concern. "We can be together again. Just let me in. If I let you in, you won't be you anymore." She screamed back, squeezing her eyes shut, as if wishing the nightmare would simply evaporate with the effort. "They're not what you think they are, Mark. The rumors, they're real." "What rumors?" Mark's voice cracked, a tremor of genuine fear wrestling with disbelief. "What did you do?" Tears glimmered in Jessica's eyes. "I didn't know how to stop it. I thought if I could keep you safe long enough, maybe they would leave us alone." The creature continued its pleading, wrapping its words around them like a vice. "We can be a family again, Jessica. Let me in, just let me have him." Mark recoiled, sickened. "Family? Do you hear that? You call this thing a family?" The realization crashed down like a wave. Jessica had known what was lurking, had allowed this thing to pursue them, hoping he would stay blinded by love and trust. But beneath the haze of betrayal, a new flicker of determination ignited in him. "We have to get out of here. Now." Pushing aside the disorienting swirl of emotions, they silently worked together, shoving boxes in front of the door, while the shadows loomed closer. "I swear," he whispered, his voice low, "if we make it out, you'd better explain everything. All of it. Just trust me." She begged, one final plea as the scraping grew louder, more frantic. Then everything went dark, the closet door rattling violently, and Mark bent low, heart racing, eyes straining against the growing uncertainty. He could almost feel the creature's breath on his neck, cold, lingering, taunting that in a desperate moment, he whispered, "What if it reckons with the truth, Jessica? What if it finds a way to get in?" Her eyes widened in fear, and for the first time, doubt flickered over her expression. "Then we'll have to face it together or die trying." Outside, their pursuer chuckled again, a sound that struck at the very core of Mark's soul. "You cannot escape me. I will always find you." Would they uncover the truth behind this horror? Or was Mark destined to be entrapped in despair? Caught between love and betrayal? The rattling intensified, each jolt of the door sending shockwaves through Mark's body. Fear surged, pounding against his chest like a drum. "What if it gets in?" he blurted, glancing at Jessica. He needed an answer. He needed her to be strong. "We won't let it. We can't." She insisted, desperation etched across her face. The creature's voice morphed into a low growl, amplifying the weight of their dread. "You think you can hide in the shadows? I can smell your fear, feel your heartbeat. It only makes me stronger." Mark winced with each sinister word that slipped through its twisted lips. A sudden wave of ingenuity flashed through him, igniting an ember of hope amid the encroaching shadow. "We need something," he murmured, shifting his gaze around the dark confines of the closet. "Something we can use against it." Jessica's eyes widened, and as if on cue, she reached for an old, rusted wrench peeking from behind a box. "This? We can fight it back, maybe distract it long enough." "Use your phone," Mark urged. Maybe the light, it can buy us time. Jessica nodded frantically and fumbled in her pocket, producing her phone with shaking hands. The screen flickered to life, casting a dim glow in the pitch-black closet. She cast a wary glance at the warped door, hoping the light would help them see beyond the suffocating dark. Just then, the creaking intensified, rattling like a living thing. The air thickened around them, suffocating, as Mark held his breath, waiting for the inevitable. He squeezed Jessica's hand once more. On 3, we burst out of here. The moment it's distracted by the light. Mark, wait. She barked, but he was already edging his way to the door, the wrench clutched like a lifeline. Trust me. 1, 2, 3. Mark shoved the door wide open, adrenaline surging as he lunged forward with the wrench raised high, ready to fight. The creature, caught off guard, paused as the beam of light hit its deformity, twisting its features into something grotesque and terrifying. No. You can't do this. It screeched, pupils dilating with rage. The light pierced the gloom, illuminating jagged claws and a writhing mass of darkness. Mark's heart raced as everything played out in slow motion, the air thickening with tension. We can't let it in. Fight it. Jessica shouted, her voice piercing through the horror. Just as Mark prepared to swing, the creature lunged, fiercely grabbing the wrench with twisted hands, showing strength that belied its monstrous form. The wrench snapped, splinters flying as it erupted into chaos, the creature's eyes gleaming with a malevolent hunger. Mark was thrown back, landing hard against a pile of boxes. Jessica screamed as light flickered and died around them, plunging them into darkness once more. He scrambled to get up, panic coursing through him. Every instinct screamed to run, yet he was tethered by a potent mix of fear and the desperate need to protect Jessica. Mark! She shouted, fear-stricken, and then there was silence. What did you do? Mark's heart sank. The air was frigid, and he could hardly breathe as the creature loomed closer, the promise of something dark lingering in the corners of his mind. You can't be with her, it hissed, the voice slithering like ice down his spine. She belongs to me now. Mark's mind raced. No. I want to lose her. A sharp crack echoed through the closet, the door bending violently open, revealing the terror outside. They couldn't hold back the creature forever. It was like a nightmare come to life. Despair took a firm hold, the gravity of the situation clawing at his sanity. Together, we're stronger. He shouted, reaching for Jessica's hands, pooling every ounce of his courage into that one moment. But in the darkness, dread shadowed every move they made. Would they manage to survive the creature's wrath, or was doom already sealing their fate? Echoes of laughter filled the air once more, a bone-chilling reminder of their pursuer's presence. This isn't over, not by a long shot. Suddenly, the walls felt like they were closing in, suffocating him with unreal dread. Would he have the strength to fight back, or would this be the moment everything crumbled into shadow? The darkness pressed in around them, thick as fog, wrapping tightly around Mark's chest. He focused on Jessica, the small flicker of her phone casting shadows across her terrified face. We can't let it separate us, he breathed, feeling the weight of the creature's malevolence loom ever closer. Mark, her voice trembled, laced with fear, and despite the horror surrounding them, there was a faint glimmer of courage in her eyes. We have to stick together. No matter what. The creature's wicked laugh echoed, a chorus of despair that danced mockingly through the closet. Together? How quaint. But together you'll only amplify the taste of your fear. This will be so much fun. Mark could feel his heart pounding in rhythm with the creature's taunting words. The echo of uncertainty lingered in his mind. He could barely think, all his senses screamed for him to escape, but there was nowhere to run. Suddenly, a thought struck him. The window. He blurted. The small one at the back of the closet. We can. But before he could finish, the creature surged forward, claws outstretched. The closet door, still barely hanging onto its frame, crashed into the wall, sending a shockwave rippling high into the air. Jessica gasped, a sound of pure terror that snapped Mark back to focus. "Now!" he shouted, seizing her arm and dragging her towards the back wall. The creature snatched at them, its hands a mass of twisted flesh, sharp and ready to suffocate. Mark pushed Jessica in front of himself, determination fueling his every move. He needed to protect her. As they reached the window, desperation surged. It was barely a gap, but it offered a glimmer of hope. Mark forced its frame open, the wood splintering beneath his touch. Wind whipped through the opening, carrying with it a bitter chill. "Go! Climb through!" They were almost there, but the creature's growl filled the air again, a sound that chilled Mark to his core. "You think you can escape? I'll have you both." Heart racing, Mark shoved Jessica through the gap. "Now! Get out!" She hesitated for a fleeting moment, glancing back at him, her eyes filled with panic. "What about you? Just go. I'll follow," he yelled, feeling raw panic spool inside him. He couldn't let it win. Not now. She dove through, her body disappearing into the night. Mark clambered through behind her, feeling the creature's breath on his back, a sickening wave of heat. Just as he made it halfway, sharp fingers scraped against his heel, pain shooting through him. "Mark!" Jessica screamed from below, her voice laced with urgency. He gritted his teeth, pushing harder. With one final burst of energy, he squeezed through the opening, tumbling to the ground as he landed hard on the cool earth. Dread twisted in his gut, and he scrambled up to see the creature thrashing against the window frame, rage radiating from its monstrous form. They were outside now, exposed under the moonlight, but there was no time for relief. Mark quickly scanned their surroundings. Shadows danced among the trees, and though they were free from the closet, they were still within reach of something lurking just beyond the thin veil of night. "Run!" He pulled Jessica's hand, urging her away from the scene. They sprinted into the darkness, their hearts racing in tandem, but with each shadow they passed, the reality of their situation crashed against him. The night concealed more than just their escape. "How far do we have to go?" Jessica gasped, glancing back toward the house, uncertainty etched onto her face. "Far enough," Mark replied, still sensing the creature's seething rage lingering just out of sight. But behind them, the haunting voice cut through the night once more. "You can run, but I will always find you. You cannot escape forever." Chills traveled down Mark's spine, ignited by fear and determination. He realized this wasn't over, they had only just begun to unravel the nightmarish web that bound them together. But what lay ahead? More danger. More darkness. Ahead, the forest stretched on endlessly, shadows clawing at their backs as unknown dangers lurked within. Were they really free, or was this just the beginning of a darker revelation? "Keep running, Jess," he urged, each step becoming more frantic. What more could this creature do? What other horrors awaited them in the night? Mark's breath caught as they plunged deeper into the woods, and the air thickened with untold threats, the feeling of being hunted more tangible than ever. Branches snapped underfoot, the crunch echoing in the heavy silence that enveloped them. Mark pulled Jessica through the maze of trees, each shadow seeming to morph into a new terror, flickering just at the edge of his vision. "Mark, where are we going?" Jessica's voice was strained, her breath sharp and quick like a bird fluttering against a glass. "Just keep running." He could feel the weight of the darkness pressing closer. The woods seemed to be alive, whispering promises of despair, and he had to focus on the here and now. He had to remain strong. A sudden rustle sent their hearts racing, causing them to spin toward the noise. A shadow darted behind a tree, and Mark felt a jolt of adrenaline shoot through him. "Did you see that?" he breathed, looking into Jessica's wide eyes. "Yeah, let us just keep moving." They plunged deeper into the forest, and Mark fought to calm the whirlwind in his chest. He turned back to the path they traveled, hoping it would guide them away from whatever menace pursued them. Then a howl pierced the air, raw and primal, sending chills racing down their spines. Mark's legs pumped faster, but it felt like the ground itself was trying to hold him back. Jessica stumbled beside him, and he reached out, grasping her hand tighter as the fear threatened to pull them apart. "Don't look back," he urged, though the instinct to glance over his shoulder pulled at him like a chain. "We need to find somewhere safe." "Safe? Where?" The strain in Jessica's voice was palpable. "Anywhere but here." They burst into a small clearing, moonlight pooling on the dew-soaked ground. Mark's lungs burned as they paused, the air thick around them. He scanned their surroundings for refuge, but the shadows seemed to close in, eager to consume them again. "Mark, what are we going to do?" The panic that had been simmering in Jessica's voice boiled over. Sure, he could hear faint rustling behind them, a sound that dripped with intent. Panic clawed at him. The creature was relentless, weaving through the trees like it owned the night. A flicker of light shone in the distance, flickering like a will-o'-the-wisp. Mark squinted, hope igniting in his chest. "Look! Over there!" He pointed, feeling a surge of determination push him forward. "Maybe it's a cabin or something, a place we can hide." Jessica nodded but didn't move. Fear rooted her to the spot. What if it's a trap? What if it's still following us? "Anything is better than standing here," he countered, his own uncertainty creeping back in. But there was no time for second-guessing. They had to act. Almost as if in response, the howl rang out again, closer this time, thrumming like a drum in his chest. "Now! We need to go now!" They dashed toward the light, the tension between them thick enough to slice. As they approached, Mark squinted at the shape of the structure, the dim glow emanating from within seeming to pulse with life. Was it salvation or another horror waiting to unfold? But as they neared the door, a sudden flash of movement caught the corner of Mark's eye. He froze, dread coursing through him. Something monstrous lurked just beyond the trees, shifting between the shadows, just outside of reach but not out of sight. "Mark?" Jessica's voice trembled, fraying the edges of his composure. "It's here," he muttered, his voice barely a whisper, coated in fear. "We have to get inside, Jess. Now." As they reached for the door, the howl transformed into a guttural growl that reverberated in his bones. In that moment, everything hinged on their next action. Would they be consumed by the darkness or find the strength to defy it? In a heartbeat, they flung the door open, plunging into the unknown. But in the fleeting seconds before it slammed shut, the creature's face flashed in the darkness, a twisted grin spreading across its features, a grim reminder that their nightmare was far from over. What awaited them inside? A haven, or something even worse? The door slammed behind them, the sound reverberating through the small wooden cabin like a warning bell. They stood huddled in the cramped entryway, hearts pounding, breaths mingling in the stale air. Shadows danced across the walls, flickering in the light of a single flickering bulb above. "Do you think it followed us?" Jessica whispered, her eyes darting around the room as if the very walls could betray them. Mark strained his ears, listening for the telltale signs of pursuit. Silence pressed down on them, heavy and oppressive. Hope flickered in his chest, but each moment that passed felt like an eternity. "I don't know," he replied, trying to steady his voice. "We can't let our guard down." They moved deeper into the cabin, the floorboards creaking under their weight. Dust floated in the thin beams of moonlight streaking through grimy windows. Old hunting rifles lined the walls, their barrels coated in a layer of neglect. This place had been untouched for years, and yet it carried a scent of despair, like a relic of past terror. "Look!" Jessica pointed to a small table in the corner where an oil lamp stood, its glass cracked and dirty. "We can light that. It might help us see." Mark nodded, grabbing the lamp and checking for oil. None remained. "Great," he muttered, frustration creeping in. He could feel the anxiety radiating off Jessica, her fear palpable. "Let us check the other rooms." They tiptoed past a small kitchen filled with rusty pots and empty cans. The air tasted stale, and every shadow felt like a lurking predator. As they approached a door at the end of the hall, Mark hesitated. A part of him wanted to push it open, to face whatever lay behind it. Another part screamed to run, to find an escape route instead of searching for the unknown. Jessica took a step back, eyes wide. What if it's something worse? He turned to her. Worse than what we just faced out there. Jess, we don't have a choice. He took a breath, steadying his resolve. We need to know. For us and for whatever is chasing us. Pushing the door open, they confronted a dusty living room. An old couch sat forlornly in the center, and an odd assortment of mismatched chairs surrounded a small coffee table. A thick layer of dust coated everything, but there was something unnerving about how it felt almost untouched. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled from behind them, vibrating through the floor. Mark felt his heart lurch in his chest, a visceral jolt that cut through the creeping dread. Jessica's breath hitched beside him, and in that moment, he knew it wasn't just their minds playing tricks on them. Mark, her voice trembled, fingers grabbing onto his arm tightly. What was that? The growl rolled again, louder this time, echoing through the cabin. We have to move. Now. He rushed toward the farthest corner, hoping for an exit, but the twisted knot of fear constricted around his chest. As they reached the window, Mark peered through, seeing nothing but the dark woods beyond. The trees loomed like sentinels, the howling winds whispering secrets of the dead. But there, just at the edge of the trees' shadows, a pair of glowing eyes stared back. They shone like emeralds, fierce and hungry, burning into his soul. Mark! Jessica gasped, yanking him back just as the growl morphed into a haunting howl that pierced the cold air. Fear surged through him. The thing outside was no longer just a shadow, it was a stark reality, and it wanted them. With no time to ponder their next move, Mark grabbed Jessica's hand, adrenaline coursing through them both. We can't wait. Find something to barricade the door. As Jessica dove for the couch, the howl grew louder, shifting into a terrifying symphony. The eyes outside blinked, then vanished, only to reappear closer, more menacing than before. Faster! Mark urged, snatching a chair and pushing it against the door just as it rattled violently. Everything around them felt alive, like the very cabin was breathing, responding to the chaos outside. They had bartered for time, but what would happen next? What if the true horror awaited them? Inside? The shadows deepened, the grinning darkness lurking ever closer. The cabin shuddered as the growl escalated into a full-fledged roar, the walls vibrating like drums. Mark's heart raced wildly, each beat echoing like thunder in his ears. He and Jessica had less than seconds, a fragile window of opportunity condensed into a climate of pure panic. Mark, it's coming! Jessica shouted, her voice threading through his mind with urgency. He glanced at the door, the relentless pounding grew louder, metal splintering, an all-consuming predator eager to devour them whole. With a desperate push, he grabbed a heavy wooden table and hurled it against the door, praying it would hold. Help me! He yelled, their eyes meeting, a pact of survival made in a split second. They strained against the weight of the table, bodies trembling as they pushed until it wedged tightly against the doorframe. The howls outside faded for just a moment, giving way to a deafening silence that charged the air around them. What did you bring upon us? He whispered, anguish spilling from him. Jessica stepped back, her eyes pools of fear and regret. I thought I could keep you safe. I thought what? That lying to me would protect us. He cut her off, a mix of fury and betrayal boiling over. Mark, just listen. She stepped closer, grabbing his shoulders as fear ignited in her eyes. You don't understand, but he did. The pieces were falling together, revealing a sinister puzzle. You kept the truth buried, Jess. And now look where we are. The weight of every secret crashed down on him like an avalanche, the air thickening with the sharp sting of adrenaline and despair. The door rattled violently, sending vibrations through the floor that tightened around his chest. We have to figure out a way out of here. He shot back, words tumbling from his lips like desperate prayers. I don't know. We need to find something. Just as he was about to reply, sunlight blazed inside like a sorrowful specter, seeping around the edges of the boarded window. The beam illuminated the dusty cabin, casting dancing patterns across their terrified faces. Mark's mind darted back to the wooded exit he had glimpsed briefly before they were trapped. Was it a figment of desperation, or was escape still within reach? Mark, the window. We have to break it. Jessica exclaimed, a flicker of determination igniting within her. Right, he nodded, heart thrumming in his ears. They rushed toward it, the howls crescendoing just beyond the door, growing more ferocious. No time, he said, adrenaline flooding his veins. He grabbed the chair from the barricade and swung it at the glass. The sound of shattering echoed like applause from unseen specters, and shards exploded across the floor, glimmering despite the surrounding darkness. Go. Now. Mark urged, pushing Jessica through the jagged opening. She paused halfway, grabbing onto the edges of the window frame, panic flashing in her gaze. Don't look back, Jess. Just jump. With one last frantic glance, she climbed out, and Mark followed, tumbling onto grass that felt almost sacred after the dark confines of the cabin. They lay in the cool, soft earth, gasping for breath, the sprawling woods embracing them like a long-lost friend. But the door behind them splintered alarmingly, and the howls morphed into guttural curses laced with violent desperation. They scrambled to their feet, dread pooling in their chests as the creature's shadow surged upon them, impossibly larger now. It's coming. Jessica gasped, pulling him along as they dashed through the trees, heartbeats frantic and wild against the haunting whispers of the forest. North, Mark screamed between breaths, leading through thickets and underbrush. We need to find a road. If we can reach the road, someone else can help us. The woods seemed to close in around them. Each step felt like they were chasing ghosts, the memories of everything that had happened driving them deeper into terror. But ahead, a sliver of moonlight outlined a narrow path cutting through the trees. There. Mark pointed, pushing forward, a solitary beacon of hope brightening their path. Together, they sprang forward, branches snapping like the final nails in their coffin. Mark could almost sense the long's claws grasping at their backs, hungry for their heartbeat's final fade, but they refused to stop. Refused to give in. As they burst onto the path, the ground gave way, an unsettling rumble that faded into silence. Crouching near an overgrown thicket, they paused again, chests heaving, as they tried to block out the noise around them. Do you hear that? Jessica whispered. The night was eerily quiet, an ominous silence settling around them, amplifying every sound, the soft chirp of crickets, the rustling of leaves underfoot. I think it's gone, Mark replied, but a shadow still flickered on the edge of his mind, a reminder of the monster still lurking somewhere in this darkness. No, it can't be. It will come for us again. We have to keep moving. Look out. Before Mark could react, a figure hurtled from the darkness. They barely had time to brace before Jessica's scream pierced the night. He turned to see the thing, its grotesque features twisted by the glow of the moon, barreling toward them. In a single heartbeat, perspective shifted, survival surged to the forefront. Run! He shouted, grabbing her hand once more, adrenaline lighting a path through their terror. Back through the dense thicket they dashed, leaving their fears behind as shadows closed around them. They were light and dark twined together, hearts in sync as they plunged deeper into the unknown, and then, in the distance, he saw it. Lights dancing, a welcoming glow emanating from beyond the trees. The road. Keep going. He yelled, a sense of hope igniting within him. The air whooshed behind them, shadows racing, claws just moments away from seizing their souls. But they pushed forward, each step swift and steady on the narrow path that would lead them to safety if they could make it. The cacophony of night was drowned under their rhythmic pounding desperation against the nightmare. Almost there. Jessica breathed, her voice resolute, carrying them like a lifeline. They charged toward the road, hearts brimming with a mixture of fear and insatiable hope. They would either break free from this living nightmare or fall victim to the banquet of shadows waiting to consume them whole. The road shimmered ahead like salvation, fiery flames dancing in the grasp of the unknown. That it was time to face the truth, whatever that might be, and for a fleeting second, Mark held on to every spark of courage they had left because even in horror, love's light might blaze through the darkness. But, as they burst onto the road, a figure emerged from the depths of the woods, its form solidifying into the figure of the creature a darkness made flesh. They were bound for confrontation. Mark. Jessica gasped, horror-stricken, grounding him as reality crushed the relief. In that moment, everything felt choked with tension as time stood still, the creature stalking forward with majesty, its grin twisted and hungry, daring them to take just one last step backward. The sun would rise again, or so they prayed, but until then, they had one final stand to make against the night, a moment to solidify their fate together. Would they rise from the ashes of chaos, or break against the burden of their darkest fears? And as dawn approached, casting fingers of gold across the horizon, only they could decide. Fight or flight, the final decision lying in their trembling hands before the inevitable found them. Mark turned to Jessica, a promise hovering in his heart. If they were to fight, they would fight as one. And with that vow, they faced the shadows, ready to unveil the echoes of darkness once and for all. Now, true fans, this is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm because you love epic tales like this. I want to hear from you, so flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this shocking conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video. Blast the link to at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. This community is tight, and only those who understand know the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep this wild adventure going.